What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into what should be a routine late-night interview only to discover the host has a hidden agenda that goes way beyond entertainment? What you're about to hear is the real story behind one of the most explosive confrontations in late-night television history. A clash so intense that it ended with Samuel L. Jackson being escorted off the Jimmy Kimmel live set. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is about respect, integrity, and what happens when a talk show host crosses a line that should never be crossed. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below because this story will change how you see late-night television forever. The Jimmy Kimmel live studio was buzzing with its usual pre-show energy. Cameras were being adjusted, the audience was settling in, and Jimmy Kimmel was reviewing his notes one final time. Tonight's guest was Samuel L. Jackson, the legendary actor known for his commanding presence both on and off-screen. What should have been a straightforward promotional interview for Jackson's latest film was about to become something entirely different. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Samuel L. Jackson, Kimmel announced with his trademark grin. As Jackson walked onto the stage, waving to the cheering audience, Jackson settled into the guest chair, his demeanor relaxed, but alert. "Good to be here, Jimmy," he said, adjusting his suit jacket. "Great to have you, Sam." "Can I call you Sam?" Kimmel asked, already leaning forward with an intensity thought seemed oddly misplaced for such an early moment in the interview. "Samuel works just fine," Jackson replied, his tone polite but firm. Kimmel-Unca's smile flickered for just a moment. "Right, Samuel. So, let's talk about your new movie. But first, I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me." Jackson raised an eyebrow. This wasn't how these interviews typically started. "What's that?" "Well, you've been pretty vocal lately about certain issues in Hollywood, and I'm wondering if you think maybe you're being a little too aggressive with your opinions." The audience fell silent. Jackson's expression shifted slightly, his eyes narrowing as he studied Kimmel-Unca's face. "Aggressive? I'm not sure what you mean by that." "Come on, Samuel, you know exactly what I mean. All this talk about representation, about how the industry treats certain actors. Don't you think maybe you're stirring up trouble where there doesn't need to be any?" Jackson leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. "Are you seriously asking me if I think fighting for equality and fair treatment is stirring up trouble? I'm just saying things have gotten better over the years. Maybe it's time to, move on from all that." The tension in the studio was palpable now. Jackson's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Move on from what exactly?" "From wanting to see talented people get the opportunities they deserve, regardless of their background." Kimmel shrugged, his casual dismissiveness becoming more apparent. "I think you're making mountains out of molehills. Hollywood's changed. We didn't need to keep beating this dead horse." "Dead horse?" Jackson's voice rose slightly, and several audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Jimmy, are you telling me that the fight for equal representation is a dead horse?" "Look, I'm not trying to start anything here," Kimmel said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "I'm just thinking maybe you could focus more on your craft and less on politics." Jackson stared at Kimmel for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "My craft and my principles aren't separate things, Jimmy. They never have been. But don't you think actors should stay in their lane, entertain people, not lecture them?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jackson's hands gripped the arms of his chair. "Stay in my lane. Let me ask you something, Jimmy. When you make jokes about politicians every night, are you staying in your lane?" Kimmel's confidence wavered slightly. "That's different. That's comedy." "No, that's not different at all. That's you using your platform to express your views, just like I use mine. The only difference is, you seem to think your views matter more than mine." "I never said that," Kimmel protested, but his defensive tone betrayed him. "You didn't have to say it. You implied it the moment you suggested I should keep my mouth shut about issues that affect people who look like me." The studio had gone completely quiet. Even the crew members were watching with rapt attention as the interview spiraled into uncharted territory. Kimmel tried to regain control. "Samuel, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm trying to say here." "Am I? Because it sounds to me like you brought me on this show not to talk about my work, but to try to shut me up about the things I care about." "That's not I mean, that wasn't my intention," Kimmel stammered, his smooth talk show host persona cracking under Jackson's unflinching gaze. "Then what was your intention, Jimmy?" "Because this sure doesn't feel like a typical promotional interview." Kimmel glanced toward his producers offstage, looking for guidance, but found none. He was on his own, and Jackson wasn't going to let him off the hook. "You want to know what my intention was?" Kimmel said, his voice taking on a sharper edge as he abandoned any pretense of friendliness. "My intention was to have an honest conversation with you about how you've been conducting yourself lately." Jackson's eyebrows shot up. "How I've been conducting myself? Jimmy, who do you think you are to judge how I conduct myself? I'm someone who's been in this business long enough to know when someone's crossing lines." Kimmel shook back, his mask finally slipping completely. "And you've been crossing a lot of lines lately." The audience was dead silent now, sensing they were witnessing something far beyond a normal interview. Jackson leaned forward, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet tone. that anyone familiar with his work would recognize as a warning. What lines have I crossed? Jimmy, be specific. Kimmel straightened in his chair, apparently thinking he had regained some control. Well, for starters, that speech you gave at the awards ceremony last month. You basically called out half of Hollywood. I called out an industry that still has work to do. That's not crossing a line. That's telling the truth. But you made a lot of people uncomfortable, Kimmel insisted. Jackson's laugh was cold. Good people should be uncomfortable when they're part of the problem. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Kimmel said, pointing at Jackson. That attitude, right there, you act like you're some kind of moral authority. I act like someone who's been in this business for decades and has earned the right to speak his mind, Jackson replied, his voice growing more intense. Something you apparently have a problem with. Kimmel shook his head. I don't have a problem with you speaking your mind. I have a problem with you attacking people who are trying to help. Attacking people. Jimmy, when have I ever attacked anyone who is genuinely trying to help? You know what I mean? You criticize directors, producers, executives who are making an effort. Jackson's expression hardened. Making an effort. Jimmy, do you know what making an effort looks like to me? It looks like actually hiring people, not just talking about hiring them. It looks like giving opportunities, not just giving lip service. But you can't expect everything to change overnight, Kimmel argued. Overnight. Jackson's voice rose again. Jimmy, I've been in this business for over 30 years. How long do you think? We should wait for basic fairness. Kimmel was starting to look flustered, sweat beading on his forehead under the studio lights. I'm just saying maybe you could be more diplomatic about it. Diplomatic, Jackson repeated the word like it tasted bitter. You mean quiet? You mean compliant? You mean I should smile and nod and be grateful for scraps? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. You just don't have the courage to say it directly. Jackson's stare was withering. Let me ask you something, Jimmy. When was the last time you used your platform to call out inequality in this industry? Kimmel's mouth opened and closed without sound for a moment. I support various causes. That's not what I asked. When was the last time you used this show, this platform to specifically address the lack of diversity in entertainment? I don't think that's really my place, Kimmel mumbled. But it is your place to tell me to stay quiet about it. The contradiction hung in the air like a smoking gun. Several audience members were now murmuring among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with what they were witnessing. Kimmel tried a different approach. Look, Samuel, I brought you on here because I thought we could have a real conversation about this stuff, Manto Man. Manto Man. Jackson's voice was dangerously quiet again. Jimmy Manto, man, you ambushed me. You brought me on here under the pretense of promoting my film, and instead, you're trying to dress me down like I'm some kind of troublemaker who needs to be put in his place. I never said you were a troublemaker. You didn't have to. Your whole attitude tonight has been condescending from the moment I sat down. You started by asking if you could call me Sam when I told you Samuel. Then you immediately launched into questioning my character and my right to speak up about issues I care about. Kimmel was visibly rattled now, his composure completely gone. I think you're being oversensitive here. The words were barely out of his mouth before Jackson's hand slammed down on the arm of his chair. The sharp crack echoed through the studio. Oversensitive. Jackson's voice was like thunder now. Did you just call me oversensitive for objecting to your... Jackson's voice was like thunder now. Did you just call me oversensitive for objecting to your disrespect? I didn't mean. Kimmel started to backpedal, but Jackson cut him off. No, you meant exactly what you said. You think I'm being oversensitive, because I won't sit here and let you lecture me about how I should conduct myself. You think I should just shut up and be grateful to be here? Samuel, please, let's just take it down a notch. Kimmel pleaded, looking toward his producers again. Don't you dare tell me to take it down a notch, Jackson said, standing up from his chair. You started this.